Hi, welcome to the Pink Table where we save the spot just for you. As you guys know or may not know, we always have a margarita of the week. So today we're going to have the pineapple margarita. You can check out the recipe at thepinktable.tv. And we have an amazing guest for you guys here today. She's beautiful, she's smart, and she has a very interesting name that I love. It's Trilce Ortiz, and she's editor-in-chief of chicafresh.com, and she also has her own blog, ellaisusexo.com. So let's start our show, and we're going to formally introduce her in a little bit. Cheers, ladies.
Cheers.
So this is Trilce, everybody. Look at how gorgeous she is. Don't you love the hair, though?
You're going to make me blush.
Yeah. But she's not just a good-looking woman. She's also very, very smart and funny.
I'm funny?
I think you're funny.
Okay. They'll be the judge to that.
There you go.
So, Trilce, you're the senior digital editor of chicafresh.com, and you also run your own blog, ellaisusexo.com. Did you always know you wanted to be a writer? How did this journey begin for you?
Yeah. I can't think of myself doing anything else. I actually start writing before I began to speak.
Really?
I am what they would call a natural born writer, and even though I have ventured in...
So you're like a prodigy? Like the Mozart? She's like the Mozart of blogging?
I wouldn't go as far as
Before
that,
blogging
but
existed, she knew.
She was already
I
blogging.
was already blogging from my mom's little iPad. No, but for sure, I have ventured into other areas. Like I've experimented with film, video, and I love all those things, but it always comes back to writing. That's what I love doing. That's what I think I do the best, and it's a really fun way of communicating with people.
So you went to college. Where did you go?
I started... So I keep jumping back and forth between Colombia and the U.S. So I started college in Seattle Central Community College, and then went back home and studied social communications with a minor in journalism in Colombia. And then I moved back after I graduated.
Tell us a little bit about your blog and really what you talk about as a whole on your blog.
Yeah, the idea of Ella y su Sexo, it's kind of like the pink table, right? I want to have conversations with girls, and even though we're not in a set together, I want them to feel like I'm just a friend on the other end of the computer, and we have a conversation. A lot of my blogs come from answering questions that the girls ask, and that's what I want. I don't want to sound like, I'm a sexologist. Not that there's nothing wrong with that, but I'm not, and I just want to be like, hey, this is me talking about my stuff. I started writing about sex because I saw the need for it, right? You have a lot of publications talking about sex, but I still feel like they don't do a great job about it. And so then I started my blog, and it's more about, like I said, just having an open conversation with girls about something that I think should be talked about, even though we don't do it as often.
Yeah, especially because we're Latinas, we don't have a outlet on where to search or where to discuss it or where to even learn from it. So it's good to have Latinas like you putting it out there and making it accessible to the rest of us. As you know, you may have a lot of young women just going over there and taking a lot from it, just learning.
Yeah, and I think we're definitely a generation that doesn't buy into the big enterprises anymore, which is why the bloggers are becoming so successful, because it's like you want to know that the person on the other end isn't trying to sell you anything, isn't going for their own agenda, but it's more like, hey, I have an interest or I have a knowledge and I can
relate.
Yeah. And I know who you are. Like, we're both Latinas. We both kind of grew up in sort of the same Catholic background, whatever. Yeah. So I hear you, girl. Like, I know what you want to know because I was lost too.
Struggle.
I know the Latin woman struggle. Yes. So I was looking through your blog, and I see that you write about relationships, you write about sex, and you write about self-love. Mm-hmm. So talk to me a little bit about self-love and how you got into that topic.
Well, how I got into the topic is very personal, but, it was seriously the years and years of struggling with bad relationships. Mm-hmm. Everything else in my life, for the most part, know that you don't have downfalls, but career-wise, I guess money-wise, intellectually, with my family, with my friends, everything was going smooth or has gone smooth for the majority of my life. Relationships were a disaster It was just so bad. It was one bad relationship after the next. And I see that's something that happens to a lot of women in general, Latinas especially. And I kind of went like, all right, enough with the rehabilitation center. I'm going to stop with all this crazy madness and really go back to the basics, which is yourself, right? Who am I?
Yes.
What do I want? What is it that I want to achieve in this life? Where are my talents? How can I explore those talents? And then from there, you start building into all the other relationships, because I am a firm believer that unless you're in love with yourself, you will never, ever, ever have a fulfilling relationship or a sex life. It all starts with loving yourself.
I'm 30, and I think now it's that I'm really starting to sort of begin that journey. And I hadn't even really thought about it until we were going to do this episode, and I had to do a little research and sort of dig into what self-love is, which is like appreciating yourself and, you know, caring about yourself and what you want and your needs. Until this episode, I hadn't really began that road.
I think you had, like, at 30, you have that epiphany, right? Because when we met and we started talking about the topic, and I told you, it was any other birthday is like whatever, or it has been for me. It's not like you feel older or wiser or anything. I mean, it was like, yesterday was a Monday, today is a Tuesday,
Yes.
that's it. But then on my 30th birthday, I swear I felt like an angel had come from the skies and like touched me in the head and felt like, you know.
Holy moment.
That's when I started being like, okay, stop it. Like, I'm not going to do anything that I don't believe in, unless, like, obviously sometimes you have to, you know, because if you're struggling or whatever. But like, I want to have a job that I do because I love, that I believe in what I'm doing. I want to have a relationship that makes me happy, that helps me, you know, become a better person, that supports who I am. I'm not about to change for anybody anymore, and so on, you know. And yeah, definitely the 30s for a lot of women is when it hits. But interestingly enough, my best friend here in New York, Kristen, she's only 24, and she already tells me that from being my friend and from hanging out with me, because we've been friends for a year, she feels like she's already doing so good in her own relationships and has changed the way that she looks at career and human interaction, because she's like, yeah, I don't have to wait until I'm 30 to realize that I don't need to date an asshole.
Right.
You know, there's no need for that. So sure, sometimes you live and learn, but some things are just like really totally worth less exploring, I say.
Yeah, I guess it depends also, you know, the people that you have around you in your life. She has you, and she has that example of a woman who's like, you know, wants to be happy within herself first.
But that's exactly my point, and that's why doing things like the pink table or AJ's to Sex are so important, right? Because we don't get a lot of that from our moms, you know. Moms don't talk about self-love. They don't leave it by example. Grandmothers, like, forget it. Las abuelitas is like, whatever the man says, mija, you're going to lose him if you don't, like, dress sexy. You're going to lose him if you don't learn how to cook. All that other crap that grandmas would say. And
Do we have the same grandma?
Yeah, we all do. I feel like the Hispanic, la Latina abuelita, she's a universal figure, man. Really. And then Jesus this and Jesus the other.
How are your beans? How do your beans come out? Like, ¿Cómo te sale la bichuela?
Don't get me started on the beans.
I'm like, Grandma, I don't even know how to boil a potato.
And you're never going to get married, okay?
Oh, no.
Say, like, how are you going to get a husband?
You're done for it.
No, wait, you know what's funny? My grandparents came to visit, and they met my boyfriend for the first time. And my grandmother, you know, she's really old. When she met my boyfriend, because I had been single for a long time, she started crying.
Oh, my God.
And gave him a hug.
So she's like,
And I was like,
Thank you. Thank you for taking
my granddaughter's savior me la va a salvar. I'm like, Grandma, no.
Yeah, so, you know, I feel that definitely we don't have those examples at home. So I think it's amazing that our generation, us girls, are doing this so that next generations can have cool, awesome moms and tell them, hey, you know what? If your boyfriend is cheating on you, that's not your fault. It's not because you gained 5 pounds over Thanksgiving dinner. It's because he's an ass.
Because we tend to blame ourselves.
Yeah. Because we the problem is that we lack self-esteem. That we thought that, you know, we're out to please men, to please our moms, to please our grandmothers, to please our bosses, to please society, and the idea that society has on who we should be. And then we forget that it's your life, ultimately. You're going to die, and none of these people are going to die with you. And what did you do? That doesn't mean, that you have to, I don't know, have won a Nobel Prize or anything like that. Yeah. But live a happy, fulfilling life is what I'm saying. And be about that as much as you can.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that.
Right?
Yes.
Aw, pieces of wisdom from Trilce, everybody.
I feel like a grandma, like a modern
like
grandma.
The right
like
grandma.
No?
Not that I'm gonna hug your boyfriend and cry, grandma.
And teach you how to make beans.
Oh my God, I totally saw my grandma.
So, any advice for women out there, or for anybody who's struggling a little bit with self-esteem, or who's a little bit too dependent on their romantic relationship? Anything that they can sort of
Don't even get me started on that. It obviously depends on so many levels, right? Because if you have a situation, which I was a part of, I was in a really dysfunctional relationship with a crack addict when I was 24 years old. And I was so codependent, is what the term is, that I didn't even see how wrong and crazy the relationship was. My whole goal was to make him stay clean so that we could get married and have children.
Let's just get over this hurdle and we can have our fairy tale.
There's so many issues with this man, and he's addicted to the substance. He's not going to school. I'm like supervising his every move. I'm becoming sort of like his private cop or whatever. Yeah. Why am I even trying to marry this person, right? So part of what got me out of the situation besides therapy was going to Al-Anon groups. And that's basically people who depend on addicts. So if you're in that sort of situation, searching for therapy or a support group if you don't have the means to afford therapy. Therapy itself, Latinas, please get that idea out of your head. It's like, ay, pero yo no estoy loca. Sure, you don't have to be crazy to go to therapy.
Yeah.
We live in New York City, which is an insane city, super stressful. So therapy is just basically something that helps you get all the stuff out of yourself. And at least my therapy, she takes no bullshit. So she's like, no, what do you mean you're going to marry him? Like, let's be real about it. He's a crackhead. How are you going to marry a crackhead? How are you going to, you're going to have kids who probably are going to born dependent on this drug. Yeah. So I think therapy is super great. And the very basic thing, I should say, I'm not going to do like the ritual of like stand in front of the mirror and say you love yourself, because probably it won't work.
That's my medication.
It is.
That's my medication to myself.
Babe, if it works for you, I'm happy. It didn't for me. I felt like a fool. I'm like, who are you trying to convince? The image on the mirror doesn't agree with what you're saying. Yeah. When you don't see it, you don't see it. So do the exercise of actually seeing it. For me, I remember that my brother used to say, like, I don't understand why is it that you don't see what I see. You're a successful woman, bilingual, you have your degree, you have your minor, you have this academic history, you're beautiful, men look at you, a bunch of my friends have crushes on you, like, what is it that you don't see? And then I remember specifically that I printed a copy of my resume, right? And I started really looking at it, and I was like, oh wow, I've been in online media successfully for 7 years. Oh wow. And I started as a freelancer, and now I'm digital.
You looked at all your accomplishments.
Yeah. And I started paying attention to, not that it matters, obviously it's something that comes from within, but I started noticing men looking at me, and I was like, oh, okay, so maybe I'm not that ugly, and maybe I am pretty. And then you do the exercise of the mirror, and then you put on your clothes, and you're like, hey, that blue looks great on you. The bandana makes my eyes sparkle, whatever. Have a little argument with that voice in your head and tell it to shut up. Because all it's saying, it's all lies. Sure, you're not perfect. So sure, you screw up one exam, but you also passed the other exam. Sure, you don't know how to make beans, but I'm pretty sure you're good at making margaritas. So tell it to just,
chill.
Shut up or disappear, whatever.
Just go away altogether.
Yeah.
In retrospect, when you look back at that relationship, like, what part of you do you think was missing that you didn't realize it was such a problem? Like, I have to walk away from this. Do you think it was a lack of self-love there?
I've had one good relationship when I was younger, about 9, 10, that was with a man that really loved me and supported me, and we had a good, healthy relationship. And after that, it was disaster after disaster, bad relationship. So this time around, my current relationship, what I did is I told myself, just stop having any kind of relationship until you really come to terms with loving yourself. I didn't give myself like a specific timeline, but I said until you know who you are, you know what you want, you're comfortable in your own skin, and you're absolutely comfortable being alone, as in single, and with the idea that you might never find the Prince Charming. You know, you might die by yourself, surrounded with a million cats, like the crazy cat lady. No dogs, because I'm not a dog person. Just be happy and embrace that. And I remember that I met my current boyfriend in OkCupid, and it was one day that I said to one of my dear friends, Sarah, I was like, dude, you know what? I am so happy and glowing, and I love this. And I had just gotten a job at Chica Fresh, and the blog is doing so well, and I had just moved into my apartment, my own apartment in New York City. Finally, I'm living by myself. And I didn't have a problem. Like, sure, you would be a little scared. Who wants to spend the rest of their lives by themselves, right? But I was like, hey, if it's meant to be that I just write and travel the world, so be it. And, you know,
that sounds great to me.
Yeah, and you can be happy that way too.
I'll be a kid's grandmother who just drinks wine and writes. And then she said, why don't you try OkCupid? And I was like, because that's weird. Like, what do you mean? And she was like, just do it. And I was like, okay. So I had it open for about a week, and it was a bunch of random weird messages. A guy that wants to take me on a shopping spree, $1,500 he offered. Oh. I ended up telling him, that's not the way that you get a lady. You need to love yourself first. And
Give him a little bit of the Trilce knowledge.
Yeah,
huh?
I mean, why not, right? Take every opportunity.
Yeah, right? For all you chapeadoras out there. Just go on OkCupid, you said?
Yeah.
There you go. That's where they are.
I have been to 3 weddings from OkCupid in the past year and a half. And I remember the day that I said, okay, OkCupid isn't for me, and that's fine. I'll be single for however long I have to be. And then my boyfriend messaged me something about me needing to meditate because I think too much, and I was like, okay, this is interesting. And then we met, and now 6 months later, I am in the relationship that I want, with somebody who really supports me. We listen to each other. We have great communication. There's no cheating or laziness or craziness or drugs or abuse or anything like that. And it isn't a fairy tale either, which was one of the problems that I had, that I was expecting the big Hollywood entrance and the white horse and all this other crap.
You just had to get rid of the drugs, and it would have just been fine.
Yeah, no, I'm like, no, you know what? You're a human being, and so am I. And I have positive things, other things that aren't so positive. As long as we're able to communicate and work things out, we should be all right. And here we are, 6 months, and it's going really well.
Because you found stability within yourself, you were able to find a stable relationship outside of yourself.
Not only that, but I'm also like at a point where, you know, as much as I like him and care for him, if he ever did anything that was disrespectful towards me, like, you know what I mean, slapping me, which I know he wouldn't, but if you start yelling at me, you cheat on me, you hurt me physically, you do any of these things, start drinking too much, hey,
you don't have to think about it
you
too
very much, but I like myself way more. I'm out, you know.
Amen to that.
Yes,
I like myself way more.
Yeah. And that's what I think we should all come down to.
Yeah. So there you go, guys. Pieces of wisdom from Trilce Ortiz from susexo.com. Love yourself. Get to know yourself. You don't just have to look at yourself in the mirror. It has to come from somewhere within yourself, and believe it within yourself. And appreciate who you are, and think about yourself first sometimes. And that's it for today, ladies. Thank you so much, Trilce.
Cool.
I learned a lot from you. I took a lot of mental notes. I think I have a lot to think about as a woman right now.
Yeah, no wonder her best friend has changed so much in 8 years.
Yeah.
So there you go.
This was like, 20 minutes, and I'm like, oh my God, I need to...
We learn from each other. That's the process.
Beautiful. There it is. See you guys next time here at the Pink Table. We'll have the same spot just for you. Besos.